The world of pro wrestling has seen its fair share of stables and factions come and go over the years. Some of these have been immensely memorable, while others have turned to dust with little to no mark left in history. The Shield, of course, falls in the former category as 3 rookies from NXT debuted on the main roster and changed the WWE landscape forever. No stable in recent memory has been booked as strongly as the Shield, and each of its members has gone on to have a memorable singles run, with Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins all being Grand Slam champions in the WWE. Hearts broke all across the WWE universe when Seth Rollins turned his back on his brothers and aligned himself with the Authority. In one fell swoop, one of the greatest wrestling stables in the WWE was no more. Ever since that moment, fans have been clamoring for a Shield reunion, and while WWE has teased it on multiple occasions, the True never really reunited, because we're not counting that time when Roman Reigns got really sick and Ambrose got injured. But with Ambrose back and all 3 members on the same page, the trio reunited and laid out Braun Strowman to a thunderous ovation from the universe. The Shield is definitely one of the best stables in wrestling, but there are some that are better, so let's check out 10 wrestling stables that are better than the Shield. People would argue against this entry, and that's because ever since the Wyatt family dissolved, the original members of the stable haven't really set the world on fire, despite Bray winning the WWE title and one half of the Raw Tag Team titles, and Eric Rowan and Luke Harper winning the SmackDown Tag Team titles. But of course, there's no denying that when the stable was together, they were immensely over with the universe despite questionable booking on multiple occasions. The arenas used to be lit up with phones across the country when they would make their entrance, and their feud against the Shield was absolutely fantastic, with the Wyatt family laying out the Shield on multiple occasions. Regardless of how Bray may have been mishandled in the company, he had an absolute revelation as the creepy, charismatic leader of the stable, and even if the group's dissolution and reunion wasn't handled well, no one can say that the Wyatt family did not leave a massive mark on the WWE. Most legendary stables tend to make their presence known with a bang, while others just form without too much fanfare. DX falls into the latter category, as the newly turned heel Shawn Michaels was seen hanging out with the equally hated Triple H on TV with increasing frequency. Before anyone knew it, they, along with Triple H's bodyguard Chyna, were a full-fledged stable and pushing the envelope on WWE programming in the newly born Attitude Era. The universe enjoyed the camaraderie between the two, along with their breaking of kayfabe by referring to Scott Hall and Kevin Nash on WCW, and when Michaels took a leave of absence, Triple H added X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws and turned them into a massively over babyface stable. The group eventually dissolved, but they reunited in 2006 as well as 2009 to familiarize a new generation of fans with the stable. While WWE's version of history will say that DX had a much bigger role to play in the Monday Night Wars than they really did, no one can deny just how beloved they were by the universe. In 2002, the newly crowned World Heavyweight Champion Triple H turned Monday Night Raw into his playing field. Fans were not overjoyed when wrestling veteran and legend Ric Flair joined him, before rookies Randy Orton and Batista followed suit. It initially seemed like the faction had been created to stroke Triple H's ego, but we couldn't have been more wrong. As inexperienced as Randy Orton and Batista were, they benefited greatly under the tutelage of Flair and Trips, but Trips' bulletproof booking extended to the youngsters as well, making them seem larger than life and establishing them as some of the most important wrestlers in the company. For 2 years, Evolution ran roughshod over Raw in ways that the Shield never could, and at one point they claimed a monopoly on Raw's titles, with Triple H as the World Heavyweight Champion, Orton as Intercontinental Champion, and Flair and Batista as the Tag Team Champions. The dissolution of the group gave us 2 bona fide superstars in the shape of Randy Orton and Batista. The fabulous Freebirds were much more than their voluminous hair, leather, and southern pride. The Freebirds had their name forever etched in the history of pro wrestling, as they were the first faction to actually have the NWA declare a rule named after them. The Freebird rule has most recently been used to great effect by the New Day, where all 3 members of the stable are tag team champions. The group wrestled in a number of promotions all over the world much before wrestling became the hot commodity it is today. They helped shape the nature of what it means to be a tag team star, and even if only the leader of the Freebirds, Michael P.S. Hayes, still lives on today, the fabulous Freebirds remain strong in the memories of their lifelong fans. When CM Punk turned heel and turned his attentions to Jeff Hardy, a superstar was born. The heel turn resulted in the best bad guy on the entire roster, one of the best feuds of the year, and the birth of a new faction, the Straight Edge Society. Punk was tasked with enforcing his real-life beliefs of a straight-edge lifestyle on live audiences and people watching at home. He came across as a messiah and started a cult-like group that had Luke Gallows, Serena, and Joey Mercury as members. Punk would shave members' heads in the ring as they began anew, and despite the stable getting nuclear heat and with Punk doing some of the best mic work of his career, the group never reached the heights it could have. Because of a move to Raw that eventually led to them disbanding, WWE enjoys blending elements of real life in their storylines, and they did it to perfection with the Straight Edge Society. A lot of people have been very critical of the Authority ever since the stable made its presence felt in 2013, and with good reason. Programming under the regime of the Authority was consistent of long-winded promos that eventually went nowhere and the same formulaic and predictable programming, but there is no denying the impact the Authority has had on the WWE landscape. They were the catalyst for Seth Rollins' heel turn, which allowed all the members of the Shield to achieve glorious single stars. But most importantly, it made Daniel Bryan the most popular superstar in WWE history and gave birth to the Yes Movement. The Authority was made up by Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, Kane, and Big Show, and the stable was successful in steering WWE programming to one of the greatest WrestleMania moments ever at WrestleMania 30, when Daniel Bryan finally overcame the Authority to become the WWE World Champion. A well-timed heel turn can save a struggling star's career. This was the case for the New Day when they turned heel in 2015 and went on to become a consistently entertaining fixture in programming, while becoming one of the greatest stables ever in the process. There's no denying that their initial run as faces was an absolute failure, but Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E had enough talent amongst them to turn things around and go on to become a runaway success in the WWE. The tag team picture in the company has risen and fallen from relevance, but the New Day has remained consistent, reliable, and entertaining no matter what. They've had a record-shattering run with the belts and are probably going to have another historic run as the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The Bullet Club is probably the most popular wrestling stable in the world today, with the Bullet Club and its former members having strong presences in NXT, Ring of Honor, WWE, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. The group was initially formed by Finn Balor and Carl Anderson before adding such members as AJ Styles, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, just to name a few. Their antics are reminiscent of the NWO, making them insanely popular and bona fide merchandise machines around the world. They back up all their swagger with fantastic in-ring work that is second to none. Eric Bischoff got a lot right when he was in control of WCW. His best booking decision was probably giving birth to the NWO. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash debuted in WCW and claimed they would be taking over. Before long, they had more members join their ranks and they came to be known as the New World Order. The group's propaganda videos, hand signs, and simplistic attire became iconic in no time and set the group apart from every other stable that had entered the world of pro wrestling. But eventually, much like WCW itself, the NWO could not sustain its initial momentum and fizzled out without ever arriving at its organic conclusion. A proper ending to the NWO storyline probably would have gone a long way to save WCW during the Monday Night Wars, but regardless of that, the NWO's impact on pro wrestling cannot be denied, as they didn't just shift the paradigm, they flipped it on its head. The Four Horsemen are the benchmark all pro wrestling stables aspire to. There were stables that preceded them, but the Four Horsemen changed the landscape of pro wrestling. The group was formed by accident when Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, and the Andersons all gave interviews together because of a lack of time. During the interview, Arn Anderson mentioned the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and just like that, a stable was born. The stable was the first group of cool heels in pro wrestling, and throughout the stable's run, members changed, and regardless of how well they were suited to the stable, the Four Horsemen will always live on in legend. And these are 10 stables that are better than the Shield. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I'll see you later with more videos.